This is the Google Pixel 10, and after a decade of making these devices, something feels very different this year. It's not just the new features, or the spec bumps, or the new telephoto camera, or Pixel Snap, or anything like that. It's this newfound sense of confidence Google has with this year's Pixel 10 lineup. For the first time in a long time, it seems like Google is confidently showing us what a Pixel is supposed to be at its core, and I think the number one main takeaway here is that the user experience is what truly matters to Google, not the specs. And I think a big question is, did Google actually achieve a better experience for users with this year's Pixel 10? And personally, the answer is a little bit more complicated than I want it to be. I would say a big aspect where this newfound confidence shows is with the hardware itself. In fact, Google was so confident in the design that they brought back the look from the Pixel 9 almost one-to-one, with the same boxy shape, flat side rails, camera bar visor, and materials, which I don't think many people are complaining about. On first glance, it would be hard to tell if this was the latest Pixel phone if it wasn't for the marginally thicker camera bar with a bigger glass visor. You'll also find symmetrical speaker cutouts at the bottom of the phone now, although the left side is just for the microphone, and the G logo is the tiniest, ever so smallest bit bigger as well, probably to better align with Qi 2 accessories, which I will talk about in a minute. And a really annoying change, at least for me, is that only the US models of the Pixel 10 do not have a SIM card slot. So the only option we have right now, at least in the US, is eSIM. It's a change that I absolutely do not like at all because it was the single biggest frustration of my entire experience with the Pixel 10. The setup process actually failed for me, which required me to call my carrier, costing me days of time that I could have spent testing this device out in its full capacity. Ultimately, changing to eSIM removes the simple freedom of swapping a SIM card out, which can be especially useful if your phone breaks or if you're helping a family member set up a device, for example. To be fair, some people might not ever notice this, but to me, it's a significant step backward in user convenience. The final change you need to know about is the addition of Qi tube magnets built directly into the phone, otherwise known in the wider community as MagSafe, which to me is a killer change for the Pixel 10. The team here at 9to5Google tested out quite a few accessories so far, mainly with wallets, battery banks, and stands, and so far the experience has been great. It feels good and actually exciting to a degree to go online and see any old MagSafe accessory can fit my device and natively support it. To be clear, I think the magnets could be a bit stronger. They're good, don't get me wrong, but these magnets feel slightly weaker than Apple's standard by maybe 15% or so if I had to put a number on it, which means you might experience some accessories wiggling off the phone more often than you would like. Not super common, but something you should at least be on the lookout for when you do pick up MagSafe accessories in the future. So as a whole, the design hasn't really changed much, and if you really want to see a majority of the changes with the Pixel 10, you need to take a look at the software because this is where probably 80% of the changes are. Yes, we have a ton of new features, but a lot of people will first notice the official launch of Material 3 Expressive. There is a lot to say about this update, and trust me, we will be doing some deep dives, so be sure to subscribe to the channel. But as a whole, I would say it's best summed up as the fresh, slick, and bold software overhaul Pixel UI has desperately needed, and it shows a ton of confidence from Google that they mainly got it right the first time around with no major overhauls needed since its initial beta release, just some tweaks here and there. In the flesh, it does look truly great. It's fun to interact with, and it will probably be a beloved mainstay for quite some time. Thankfully, a lot of Google's first-party apps have been updated too, with a heavy display of rounded containers to visually separate UI elements from the background, pill-shaped buttons, and elements to add emphasis, plus many of the UI content strings are now much thicker and more substantial. There are also a few fun new animations to assist these visual changes, and for some apps, there are giant, sweeping overhauls like the new context card for the phone app and various pages in Google Photos. All of these changes, as a whole, make the entire operating system feel fresh and new again, even if we didn't see the fully realized concept renders originally shown off a few months back. Of course, the Material 3 Expressive overhaul is just half the story with the Pixel 10, as we have a lot of new features to play around with too. With this, I just have to say it, a lot of these features are AI based, so if you're the kind of person that doesn't care for it, then please just skip to my camera section because I don't want to drag you through this portion of the video. But for those of you that are actually open-minded and genuinely interested in how AI can help you with your day-to-day tasks, then keep watching because there is a lot of information to go over. Long story short, Google is really focused on adding practical, actually useful features that work in the background without you having to get involved and force yourself to remember them. To me, that is how it should be 100% when it comes to AI features. Do not throw a ton of crap at me that I don't need. Just give me the features I didn't know I needed until I actually got them. And that's the big promise that Google is going for. With the Pixel 10, there are just so many smart, simple features, and to me, the most practical way to go about it is to just pick a few that work best for your needs and go from there. If you're into phone features, there is a ton of them, like on-device live voice translate that can translate phone calls in real time with the tone of your actual voice. There's take a message that can give you a transcript of your voicemail and identify the next steps based on the content of that message. There's Magic Queue, which works in calls for proactively finding and displaying relevant information inside the actual phone app UI itself, plus so much more. If you're into lifestyle apps, Daily Hub is a personalized digest in your Discover feed that shows upcoming calendar events, relevant topics, and reminders. Pixel Journal is a huge one that uses on-device AI to provide writing prompts for reflection and helps you keep track of your goals over time. Pixel Screenshots is a good addition as well, as it now replaces the built-in Android screenshot system for more seamless organization that you can just use conversational prompts to find what screenshots you're looking for. If you're into creativity features, Pixel Studio got even more user-friendly this year and runs on the latest Imagen 4 model for the best results possible. In Pixel Recorder, you can now transform vocal recordings into weirdly unique musical tracks, and Gboard now has writing tools built in so you can rewrite your text in different styles from anywhere as opposed to just the messaging app in the past. And of course, if you're into camera features, there's Camera Coach for giving step-by-step guidance on how to improve your photos framing and composition, Auto Best Take, which automatically analyzes up to 150 frames to create a merged photo with the best facial expressions possible. And there's also Help Me Edit for conversational photo editing with Gemini, and again, so much more. There is an insane amount of AI for you to play around with, and it would probably take me an hour to go over every feature and every addition, not even mentioning the existing ones from the Pixel 9 launch that are also still good to this day. And the greatest part about all of this is that a lot of these new features run on device now thanks to the Tensor G5, which was sorely needed if they want the average person out there to actually use these features. Speaking of, now is a good opportunity to talk about the new Tensor G5 chip for a little bit anyway. As many of you know, this is Google's first fully custom chip made by TSMC, and the purpose around this is for Google to have more optimized performance, enable a more powerful camera, and power all of these unique AI features. And in that perspective, I think the Tensor G5 does just that for better or for worse. As a whole, I find it's not much faster in the traditional sense, so it doesn't really feel like a groundbreaking change some spec nerds have been hoping for. For example, we've seen benchmarks here and there that put performance on par with devices several years older. Gaming performance is still okay at best, like Pokemon Go, for example, is very choppy. My performance in Delta Force, which is my go-to mobile FPS, isn't really that good either, making a lot of graphical compromises so I can get better frame rates. So in total, this is not a gaming phone by any stretch of the imagination. At least that's my initial first impression. And if you want a phone that has high performance in gaming, get a OnePlus 13 or a Galaxy S25 Ultra, because I do think that will better suit your needs. But in the areas that Google actually intentionally wanted to improve, like efficiency, camera performance, and on-device AI, I do think they achieved their goal. Myself and the 9to5 team have noticed zero issues with heat or thermal so far, aside from installing apps from my initial setup, which is totally normal. Right now, where I'm at, it's the end of the summer, around 80 or 90 degrees Fahrenheit, and there has not been one time where this phone felt warmer than it should be. And trust me, coming from the Nothing Phone 3, I know exactly what an unnecessarily overheating device feels like. None of that with the Pixel 10. So at the surface, it seems like the Tensor issues are resolved with battery drain and overheating. Real-world performance has been great too, with app load times and doing the usual Google Maps, photography, and video watching. But ultimately, I have to say the truly honest answer that I have with the Tensor G5 is that we need to do a deep dive to see if there are any real issues to look out for, so please subscribe and stay tuned for that. At this point, I'm barely a week in, and it is just too early to tell, and I can't say with good faith that every issue with Tensor has been fixed until I spend more time with the Pixel 10, but so far it does look like an improvement in the right ways, but maybe not a massive leap across the board. It's clearly a purpose-built chip for Google's ambitions, and if you're aligned with that, I think you'll be pretty safe with your experience with the Pixel 10. Finally, the last area that I want to talk about is camera performance, as this is another huge change with the baseline Pixel 10, but maybe not in the way that you want, depending on how you look at it. On paper, the Pixel 10 got a big camera revision, as it now has a triple camera setup, just like their Pro phones, that being a 48 megapixel wide camera, a 13 megapixel ultra wide, and a 10.8 megapixel telephoto with super res zoom up to 20x. But the wide and ultra wide sensors are actually worse on paper than last year's Pixel 9, as they are now effectively using the mid-range Pixel 9a's camera system on the base Pixel 10. So as a whole, you get downgraded main sensors for the addition of a telephoto. And this right here is where Google's confidence is on full display, making a bold bet that the experience of having a versatile telephoto lens is better for users than simply having the best main sensors on paper, at least for their base model. And whether that's a good experience or not is totally up to you. Comparing the Pixel 9 versus the Pixel 10's main lens, there's a few differences that I've been able to spot. I noticed the Pixel 10 consistently produces photos with higher contrast, with deeper blacks and richer, more vibrant colors, and in general, the bokeh effects are way more natural on the Pixel 10, being more shallow and overall toned down in general, while the Pixel 9 has a much more aggressive take on bokeh, with backgrounds being a lot more blurrier than I'd like to remember. Hey, quick update guys, I am filming this bit about an hour and 30 minutes before this video is supposed to go live. I wanted to make a quick note because as I was looking through camera footage, I noticed that low light photos and videos were not as good as I expected them to be. So if you notice a change in audio, that's why. I'm literally doing this on the fly with like a little lav mic. And I just wanted to clarify my thoughts on the camera, specifically when it comes to low light photo and video. I was certain that there was going to be a difference in quality based on the raw specs, and according to the results of my brief camera testing, I think those concerns are definitely valid. In general, I do find some low light photos are fine compared to the Pixel 9, but most do overall look quite a bit worse. Overall, there's just more glare, and a lot of the Pixel 10's images, light sources get blown out to the point of being distracted, and there's a huge loss of detail in general, but especially in the shadows. And low light video is even worse, as it actually does look like you're shooting with a budget device here. The low light look on the video to me is just plain bad. It is too warm, too noisy, and overall it's just very dark, dim, ugly looking video, and this is where you can definitely see the downgrade in the sensor quality. Right now, it's just low light photo and video, but I just wanted to make a specific note of that. And of course, the big one is comparing the new telephoto lens with super res zoom on the Pixel 10 versus the purely digital zoom on the Pixel 9. And immediately, it is safe to say images from the Pixel 10 are clearly sharper and text is super crisp with well-defined edges, while the Pixel 9's digital zoom is consistently soft, blurry, and does show very noticeable digital artifacting. With general objects as well, you can see the finer details and more texture on certain objects with the Pixel 10, while the Pixel 9's softer image loses a lot of that detail. So in general, the addition of a telephoto lens does give you way more versatility, and to my surprise, there aren't a lot of sacrifices in the lesser quality main sensors of the Pixel 10 than I originally anticipated. Maybe if you zoom in, like as far as you possibly can, you might be able to notice a difference in overall sharpness, but when I tried, I really had to look deep and analyze the image to tell the difference. So at this point, at least on initial impression, the downgraded cameras don't really present an issue, at least to my eyes. So that, my friends, is our initial impression of the Pixel 10. If you live and die by the spec sheet, I really don't think this phone is for you. But if you're looking for a smart, flexible and genuinely helpful companion, the Pixel 9 seems like a really interesting choice, especially if you're switching from iPhone. Now, I want to be clear, this is not in any way a final review, and I am not telling you to go out and buy this phone. The honest truth is, this is a genuinely smart phone and it needs time to learn my habits, so a final verdict is not possible in just 1 week. It's going to take at least a month to see the full capability of these AI features, so if you want to see that journey and get our real, full, final review, please subscribe to the channel. We have a lot more Pixel content on the way. We'll be doing deep dives on pretty much every aspect of the Pixel 10 you can think of, and we would love to have you on the journey if you're interested. Until next time, this has been Jordan Floyd with 9 to 5 Google. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.